Registered representatives offer securities through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Financial advisors offer advisory services through Securities America Advisors, Inc. Forest Hills Financial, Inc. and Securities America are separate entities. This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steindler.
Good morning, welcome to Keep Your Money Show. Jamie Westenbarger joined, as always, by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Bart Steindler. Bart, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's $1 million morning here in Grand Rapids.
Indeed it is. This is Keeping Your Money Show, where we cut through all the bulls, the booyahs, bells, whistles, honks, and horns to get you to the information that actually helps you move towards retirement. If you miss any part of the show, you can always find it on our website. Just go to keepingyourmoney.com or go to any of your favorite podcast partners and simply search for the Keeping Your Money Show. We found on iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Today we're going to talk about this major 401k company is being, sued and looked into for fees that were charged in their plan. Something we've talked about a lot on this show and some of the fiduciary responsibilities of a 401k plan provider. So we'll cover that. Employers can allow workers to use this 401k match to pay student loan debt. We'll talk about what we think about that. Financial tips for 2019 and how to mask your credit card number when you're spending online. All that and more. You can always reach the show anytime, 24/7 at 888-98-MONEY. That's 888-986-6639. You can also email us info@keepingyourmoney.com. And I will say, if you're not following us on Facebook, you're missing out. Because if you follow us, you'll get all of the topics we're going to talk about on next week's show before next week's show comes. So then you'll know what we're going to talk about. And you'll be like, oh, man, I got to make sure I tune in.
And it's not going to cost you anything either.
Nope. So you can find us on Facebook. Just find it under Keeping Your Money. So easy to track us down.
That's right. And hey, as you're getting ready today, you're probably going to be watching a lot of college basketball, a lot of great games on today and stuff like this, and enjoying all those sports. But the prerequisite is to spend a little time with us to learn some great tips about your money and planning for your retirement.
Right. And even though we'll be talking about green when it comes to money, of course, I'll be rooting for Go Blue.
That hasn't been going too well lately.
Hey. We still had the better record, all right? That's all I'm saying. I'm going to say what every state fan has said the last couple of years. We're just getting ready for the tournament.
There you go.
So there you go.
We'll see how that goes.
Well, let's talk about this state inquiry that the state of Massachusetts has begun, and I want to kind of prerequisite this with this kind is not this is not a criticism of the company involved in this, because this is going to involve Fidelity, and this is not speaking poorly of Fidelity, but I think it's important to mention their name in this particular instance. Many times we don't. We'll talk about ideas or things that are happening without mentioning the name. The only reason I bring up that it's Fidelity is purely because there's such a huge name, and a lot of times we hear when we're talking to somebody about the 401k they have at work, or maybe it's the 401k they provide because they're employer, they'll say things like, well, it's through such and such company. I mean, everyone's heard of them.
Right.
Or it's through so-and-so. I mean, they're huge. I'm sure they're not doing that. And then, come to find out that it's really more of an industry issue than it is a company issue. Fidelity is no different than any of the other companies out there providing these services, and sometimes the transparency of what things really cost is lacking. Not necessarily even because they're intentionally trying to do something, because far be it for me to judge them. They're going to have to go through their own little thing with the state of Massachusetts to figure that out. But sometimes just the complexity of how fees and costs and things like that occur can make things a little bit more complicated than it may seem, on the outset.
A lot of these plans have been in place for a lot of years. And what was considered acceptable, many years ago is not necessarily considered acceptable today. It's kind of like there's some things that you could have said 20 years ago, but if you say them today, they're interpreted totally differently.
Right.
This is kind of the same thing. There's a lot of ways that the fees were baked into these plans 10 years ago, and today it's not supposed to be that way so much, but the change hasn't really occurred in every plan that's out there.
Right. So what this particular complaint revolves around is specifically the 401k plan that Fidelity is managing in the fiduciary of. This is for T-Mobile's 401k, but it could be for anyone's because most of them are structured similarly. But basically the complaint revolves around something called I just missed it. Where'd it go? Infrastructure fee. Sorry. And the infrastructure fee has to do with how compensation inside of a 401k is structured in regards to the funds that are available, the fees the funds charge, and what happens with those fees. And the argument here is that Fidelity is saying they're charging this amount, the fund company is saying they're charging this amount, but there could be some sharing of fees in there, and that's not being fully disclosed. So this employee of T-Mobile is saying, look, if Fidelity is telling me these are the 4 funds I have to choose from growth, and they're operating as a fiduciary on this plan, then there probably shouldn't be the sharing of fees from those funds back to Fidelity. I mean, that's basically what his argument is. And I think what's important about this is not just if you have a Fidelity plan. If you do, it should make your ears perk up a little bit, because that's not just a guarantee that everything's great. There could be some issues in there. But I think more importantly is if you're a small business owner or you work for a small business owner, understanding that if this can happen to a conglomerate like T-Mobile, it definitely can happen to, your little metal fabrication shop. I mean, they have an entire team of people at T-Mobile looking this stuff over. The likelihood is you may have one person who handles this, or you as the owner may handle it yourself. So just being aware that, fiduciary responsibilities are a big deal. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be proficient. So much so, Bart, that even though you and I have been in this business for decades, we have our own 401k specialist. We have a person in our office that all he does is 401ks, because it's that specialized that you really have to be involved in it to understand it.
That's right. People don't realize if they work for a company or they're an owner of a company that provides a 401k, if you're an owner of a company and you're doing this, you're probably doing this because you want to have a better environment for your employees to be in. You want to have some vehicle for them to be able to save up and retire and have a good retirement someday. So you're doing this because you care about your employees. And if you are also the fiduciary of the plan, you are carrying a lot of legal liabilities. And if things are not properly disclosed, if plan documents aren't followed correctly, if you're supposed to have notes on what funds you use and why you're using those funds and why you make changes for those funds, and you're supposed to be able to document all that kind of stuff. So if you're not doing that, you're actually creating a liability for yourself. And you may not even realize you're creating that liability for yourself. And that's why it's important to work with someone that can explain to you, what these liabilities are, how to prepare for those liabilities, how to protect yourself from those liabilities, and still give a cost-effective plan to your employees so that they can have a better retirement.
Well, and especially, I think we can see this a lot of times. First of all, you're not an investment specialist. You're a widget maker, or you're
a fabricator,
service company,
or a converter,
right,
or whatever.
Right. You do what you do.
Yep.
You don't do this. And like you said, almost all the time, this is set up because you're trying to do what's best for your employees. You're relying on someone else to provide you the information. I can't tell you how many times we have done a free evaluation for a business owner's 401k and found weird things in there that the business owner really wasn't even aware of. You know, he was relying on the expertise of the person who set it up and didn't even realize that some of these strange things occurred. One of the most common ones is the lack of good funds. You know, I mean, they'll kind of take what the company says should be in there without really doing any kind of due diligence on their own because they're relying on the expertise of someone. But we've had weird things too, where we had one plan where there was life insurance being paid for inside of the plan, and basically everyone had, you know, some fees there that were paying for it. Well, that's not okay. You can't do that. And we had another situation, a small medical office where the husband and wife contributed the vast majority of the 401k premiums. When we looked at it, it actually made more sense for them to just have no fees in the plan and pay the fees from the company on an annual basis, because then they could write it off, rather when it was inside the plan, they couldn't.
Right. They could expense those fees to help defer the taxes.
Because they were paying the majority of the fees anyways, because they had substantial balances compared to the people that were working for them.
Yep.
So there's all kinds of things that makes a lot of sense to kind of just get you know, a second opinion, almost like an audit of your plan. Like, let's really see what the inner workings of this really are, and are you doing what's best for you?
Yeah. You know, a couple of weeks ago we talked about if you're a family and you're putting your estate plan together, and you pick somebody in the family to be the executor of the estate plan, that you have to really think about who you're going to pick, and it's somebody that is knowledgeable about this and someone that has some financial expertise, and you don't just pick the oldest kid, or you just don't pick somebody because they're a friend of yours. You pick somebody that can actually do that job. Well, a lot of that's true about if you own a company and you're selecting someone to, you know, get your 401k plan put through. A lot of times you go and you talk to the bank because you have, you know, a line of credit or a loan there, or you're talking to a friend of yours that's an insurance salesman and that, but you really want to talk to somebody who specializes in this area and does it a lot, because there's a lot of nuances and a lot of specifics that you got to get right, and it's important to pick somebody that does this a lot.
Yep, absolutely. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about a new program to allow student debt to be paid off through 401k. That's weird. Coming up here on the Keeping Your Money Show.
Is your 401k sturdy enough to help support your retirement goals? The Keeping Your Money Show has a team of advisors that will help you size up the assets currently in your 401k and explore asset allocation based on your goals. Call the Keeping Your Money Show today at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to learn how you can start solidifying your foundation for a strong retirement plan.